I am your host, Danielle Mims. Welcome to Think Like a Kid, the podcast that helps parents and teachers stop guessing and start teaching the way kids actually learn. After working with hundreds of kids, I can promise you this: one-size-fits-all learning doesn't work. It's time to stop making kids fit the system and start shaping learning around the child. Each week, you'll get quick wins, creative ideas, and brain-based strategies to make learning hands-on and fun again. So whether you're in the classroom, the car, or halfway through your coffee, I am so glad you're here. Let's think like a kid. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Think Like a Kid. It is August, and that means school starting for a lot of us. And I am really trying to reflect on what I'm going to work on with my kiddo who is school aged, who is going to a public school, and with my other child who is going to a part-time Christian school for some foundational religion type of learning. So I wrote down some things that I'm going to work on and, take it or leave it if you want. I am just telling you what I am going to work on with my own kid so that I feel like he is prepped and ready to go to school. So I know a lot of us focus on the new backpacks and the new folders and the new shoes and the new clothes and getting everything back to school. But I think if we make smaller shifts before this drastic change, I think it could be very helpful. So I think having the routine that you want, and you can start to slowly incorporate that before school actually starts. So as an example, like sleep, right? Like sleep is a free-for-all, like in my house right now. Like it is just, even my 2-year-old is not even napping on schedule. It's just craziness right now. So moving bedtime, maybe like 15, 20 minutes, a little bit more early than normal summer craziness. Because if you wait until the night before school, then your kiddo might, have a harder night, or they might have harder transition in the morning. So I'm going to start shifting their sleep schedule a little bit day by day before school starts. And then I want to start doing like dry runs for the morning. So practicing the morning timeline of like, okay, so if I have to get this kiddo to church at this time, and then my other kid dropped off at his public school at this time, we need to make sure that breakfast is done, having their clothes ready, and just having this routine to making sure that we have enough time without it being so chaotic. And this is something that I honestly just need for myself, because I'm like, I think it's type C, I always say, right? Because type B is how I act, and then my mind wants to be type A. So it's just a struggle. So I think just having these dry runs and these practices of eating breakfast at a certain time, not whenever they wake up, and like having all these slow mornings like we've been used to this summer, I think would be very beneficial. And something that I have not done with my kids this summer is screens, but I know a lot of parents do, and there's no like judgment there. So I added it into my notes because I said, if a lot of parents are listening to this and they do have screens, I don't want them to feel, like I'm not addressing that. So if you are doing a lot of iPad or screen time with your kid, I would just not go cold turkey. I would gradually pull back that screen time so that their brain can adjust to lower dopamine environments before they're expected to go sit in a classroom. And I think that's just setting them up for success instead of, iPad whenever you want, and then starting school. And then they're just like, my brain's used to having these hits of dopamine whenever I want, right? So you're just setting them up for success. I think a big one for my kiddo is normalizing the butterflies and the nerves and the anxiety that kind of comes into play with starting school. My son doesn't really like talking about emotions at all. So I think it's a lot of modeling and trying to reflect back to when I was school aged. And even as a school teacher for years and years and years, I was always nervous on the first day, like as an adult, and talking about those stories so that even if they don't share their own fears or nerves, they can at least know that they're not alone and that they can relate back to their adult. And if you're, you started a new job, or you were wanting to make a friend as an adult, like just be vulnerable with them. And it just helps them not feel so alienated. And I think just validating anxiety, because it is hard making friends, right? I just turned 34, I think. It's hard making friends. Like for me, it is. And I'm not a total introvert, but it's difficult. And I think having a new teacher for them, having new kids in their class is hard. And the workload gets harder too, right? Their expectations are a little bit harder. And I think just talking about all of that openly so that they know that they can come to you and talk to you about that. I think a big one for me is reconnecting with some of my son's peers from his previous class. So in a standard public school setting, the kids kind of get mixed up together and then they get put into separate classrooms again. So having a couple of play dates before school starts so that they can see their friends again and they can have these conversations before going into school. I think that's a big one. And it's one that takes extra effort because I'm always like, oh, I have so much to do, so much, to clean. So you guys just, go do your own thing, play at home with each other or the neighborhood kids. I think it's important. And I think it's something that I will be forcing myself to do and to have that reconnection with peers from early summer or late spring. And something else that I am going to be working on is my 6-year-old who is going into first grade. He is very, very independent, but I think even empowering a little bit more independence into him in these weeks leading up to school helps the executive functioning skill of independence that he will need to have for 6 hours a day at school. So not packing his bag for him and making sure everything fits perfectly and having him help assist with it. I am going to be doing a visual checklist for my kids so that they can see what's expected of them in the morning so they can kind of like mentally check things off and what I have. So an example, I don't have it done yet, but I'm thinking of, like making bed, eating breakfast, putting on your clothes, simple things like that make it not so like, oh my gosh, we have so many things to do before you're in the car going to school. And our job is to really just kind of get to their level, think the way that they're thinking, and trying to have this open line of communication of the nerves, the feelings. And I think the more that you do that, then the less surprised you'll be at reactions or behaviors that will happen. A big, big one for me that I will be doing with my kiddo is he is like I feel like I pick on him a lot talking about him, but he's like the perfect student. Like he is great at school and that's a long time. And then once he comes home, he masked his behavior all day. So when he comes home, he kind of like explodes, right? And he has like a meltdown or whatever. So I think just like talking to him about that and letting him know that's what's happening in his brain and kind of coming up with a plan of like, what are we going to do when you get home, right? Like, let's make sure that our bellies are full. Let's have some crunchy snack, like a crunchy, healthy snack. We have a calm down corner. Let's do something like, calming, regulating, like reading a book or listening to his Yodo player, building something with Legos or Magnetiles, thinking of what would help him kind of decompress, reflect on his day, and then kind of go back because it was a rough go at the second half of the school year for him of just holding it all together and then exploding. So we did a lot of work and I want to be more proactive this school year with him on how to not feel like he has to mask everything and be so perfect at school. And then also having strategies put in place for when he comes home, because the goal is to set them up for success. The goal is to have them thrive. The goal is to help them feel confident, not alienated. And I'm trying to master this, guys. Like I am trying my best to throw all of my tricks and strategies and everything that I'm even learning on a day-to-day basis at my kids because I don't know. I've never had a middle schooler. I've never had a high schooler. I've taught 6th grade and I will say that the parents are like, I don't even know how to connect with my kids anymore. And I'm scared of that. That's a true fear that I have. So I'm trying everything that I know that works in early childhood and hoping that it plants seeds and hoping that it builds our relationship because as you know, I feel like I say this every single episode, being a parent is hard.
right? And you're trying to create a world of, joy and happiness for them, but also independence. And you're also trying to build their confidence and their resilience. And it's a lot of work. And it's hard when you don't see those results right away. So anyway, I want your little homework today or tonight or this week is, what is your specific family? What's your biggest pain point for back to school season if your kid is going back to school? And I want you to just kind of focus on how can I slowly shift before school starts on how to prep that and be a little bit more proactive so that, maybe it's you can't even handle all the mess that comes with after school. Maybe you have a launch pad station where, you're practicing where the backpacks go. Where do you want them to empty their lunchbox? Do you want them to put their shoes in a specific spot? Everything has a home, or doing the whole reconnecting with peers like I'm doing, or even just talking to them about their feelings and emotions, anxieties, and the butterflies and normalizing it, or reading a back to school book or doing something of that nature. Pick one thing to do so that you can set them up for success in your own individual way for your own individual family. And if you do that, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear how it goes. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for listening and taking the time out of your busy, busy day. I will talk to you next week, and keep thinking like a kid.
Thank you for listening to Think Like a Kid. If this episode gave you an idea, a reframe, or a little win, the best way to say thank you is to share it with a friend or leave a quick review. It helps more parents and teachers find these conversations, and honestly, it means the world to me. Until next time, friend, keep meeting kids where they're at and keep thinking like a kid.